cut out some of these scrap pieces. I don't even know what this is off of, but I have a few pieces that's laying around in the scrap pile for some reason. Kind of got some interesting character to it. So I thought I'd use them for gussets in here. And I forgot also that this channel iron was not at 90 degrees to this piece. But that's okay, that'll give a place for the weld to run down into, make a little stronger weld. I had to venture into the big city of Haste, America today, and I finally remembered to buy a new lens for my little stand here for when I film the welding footage. I've been using an old one, and I can tell that the camera is having a hard time seeing through it. I keep forgetting to buy a new lens just for this. And this is a shade 10, and it's very pitted and nasty. So I went with a shade 8, and hopefully without the pits and stuff in it, we'll have a lot better welding footage. So I'm kind of excited to try that out. I really need to trim the nozzle back on this thing because I stuck it on that bead like 3 times doing a push weld uphill like that. Oh boy, I had to go put my coat on this morning, YouTube. Jeepers. It got down to 38 degrees. What is that? About 3 degrees Celsius this morning. That's just crazy for the end of August. Oh, I'm not used to it. Especially considering a few days ago it was, you know what, 103, 104 for several days in a row. Now I leave the house this morning and it's 38. I had to put on my coat actually. Plus we have like a 15-mile-an-hour breeze with it. I think that's what the radio said. So that's pretty chilly. So yeah, I have my coat on this morning, even though it's still, oh no, I guess the shop just dropped below 60 degrees too, so no wonder I'm cold. Ah, wow, alright. Well, if August is this way, I can't wait until September gets here. Man. Anyway, just enough rambling. I'm trying to finish things up on this leveler here real quick. Right now I'm working on the back scraper for the roller and trying to incorporate the battery mount for it. As soon as I get that done, then I'm going to take this thing out for a test spin. I'm going to start with the drill press. I just put together a angle iron frame real quick for the battery. Go right here above the roller. Got a piece of angle iron here for a spacer, and I just wanted to show you that I didn't take the time to 45 the corners and make it all pretty. I did it for a reason. That way I could leave these corners open, and mud and sand or water or whatever can come back out of this tray real easy that way. I know the inside's open, so it can still fall out that way too. But I thought it'd be a little bit better, that way it wouldn't build up here in the corners too, around the battery. So anyway, that was my thinking on that. So I'll put that right there. Ground clamp on. One of those silly things. Silly me. I was looking everywhere trying to find some screws to bolt down that control box. And then I finally remembered to look in the box that they sent me, and lo and behold, all the bolts and screws you need come with the winch. Imagine that. There's the battery in the box. The box is bolted down, but the battery's just sitting in there right now. I was going to try to find a strap that thing down. Right now I'm working on here, so I'm going to put the scraper on back here. I'm going to use this old piece of bed railing. It's actually the one that I use to square up these things that I had clamped on here. Because I got to thinking about it, I was like, well, this bed rail is actually tempered and pretty good steel. So I'm going to use it for the scraper edge. I think I'm getting tired since I don't feel like setting up the lathe to cut this slot, and I just dropped my vise on the floor and shattered a magnet. I probably should call it quits instead of continuing to work on this, but anyway, I am going to use the air cutoff tool real quick and see if I can't make that much into it. I can't talk either. And see if I can't make that into a slot. Yep. That didn't take too long. A little cleaning up and that'll be nice. I'll use my die grinder in there to clean it up, but that's not a bad way to make a slot. End up with these little things up here, but yeah, nobody's really going to notice that anyway. And I think I need to drain my air compressor because I got a lot of water out of that there at the last. That didn't take too long to clean up. I don't know. I probably really should have gone ahead and set up the lathe and made them look good. I feel like having those slots in there makes them look a little sloppy and unprofessional, but whatever. I guess that's the joy of being tired, is sometimes you just don't do things the right way. If I'd been a longer slot and the wheel would have fit in there, it would have worked great. It was definitely a very fast way to do it. I really think that was a lot faster than setting up the lathe. If I had a mill, you know, I could have done that in a heartbeat. Gotta get a mill. I don't know. I'm really thinking about getting a small grizzly mill. I'm going to put the model number right here. And if anybody out there has any experience with this mill, I've done some search on the internet, trying to find some reviews, and it seems like people are pretty happy with it. It's on the small side, but I think for what I mostly do, like cutting slots like this and putting keys in a shaft, I think it'll suit my needs, you know. And I keep trying to find a good old Bridgeport, you know, a big hunk of iron, and there's just nothing locally. And it seems like usually when they do come up for sale, by the time I call the person, it's already sold. So I'm having no luck finding some old classic iron, which is what I prefer to do. So I really think I'm going to get this mill. So like I said, if you have any experience with this, good or bad, I'd really love to hear it. I'm going to weld this angle iron on to these mounts up here. And since it's higher carbon, and I don't know exactly what carbon, I'm going to use a 100 rod, which I'm zoomed in way too far for you to see. But this is actually 114, which is kind of odd. I guess that way you can use it for AC. So I think I'm actually going to try it on AC today, just because that's kind of what this stuff is designed for. I probably shouldn't say this, I don't want to run down the company, but not too impressed with this brand. Can you read it? Well, the camera won't focus in on the rod right now. But anyway, I'll halfway blur it, that way I'm not completely showing you what brand it is. But I don't know, I had a salesman stop by and try to get me to buy a whole bunch of this rod, and I thought I'd try it, so I got a few samples of 100 and 70 and some of their stainless rod, and actually this MIG wire I'm using right now is their stuff too. And I pretty much decided it's all just too expensive for what it is. Honestly, if I go buy a good Lincoln rod of like 118 or 110/18 or something, I'd be a heck of a lot better off. So anyway, I guess that's the pressure of having salesmen come by. Sometimes you fall for that stuff, but at least I know. So anyway, point of that rambling was I'm using 114 and going to use it on AC just to see how this stuff does on AC, and weld the angle iron to those brackets. Come on. Ah, it's not so bad. Yep, that'll work. Yeah, I'm going to do the other side then and bolt this thing in place after it cools down. There it is, all bolted on. Kind of looking in the sun a little bit here, but that'll work pretty darn good, I'm hoping. Well, that was a terrible test run. Popped the tire right off the bead. It did exactly what it was doing last time. Those tires just flop on their side and drag. And then I tried to raise it up a little bit. The tire just was on its side and then put the pressure on it and it just popped right off the bead. So crap. When I backed up, the tires went straight. And you could actually use them as gauge wheels. You could actually, you know, adjust the height very minutely that way, and they ran perfectly when I was backing up. So I've been trying to think of a quick way to turn this assembly around, or do something. Yeah, I'd have to turn it around, wouldn't I? But then how do I adjust the height if I do that? The only idea I have right now, besides turning this carriage around, is making it so it doesn't hinge up here, but so it hinges clear back here where the winch is. So it would do this number. Because then the casters would always stay in this position. I mean, they would tilt just a little bit, but not bad. And then the frame would drop down. So your casters would always be upright like that. I'm going to go ahead and make this caster assembly pivot from back here. So I'll cut off this lifting assembly I put on it. I think I have some 1x2 square tubing that is the same size of this frame. And if I do, I'll use that and come back here, make pivots. As a matter of fact, I think the winch can even stay exactly where it's at. All I have to do is build a couple pieces that come off of this arm, cut off these blocks, and make a lever here. I do have some 1x2 tubing. It's got a bit of rust on it though. Man, it's amazing how fast that stuff will rust when you turn your back to it. Anyway, so I got some 1x2 tubing. Those clevises fit right over it.